welcome, and today I want to talk about sleep, or more aptly, the lack thereof. So, lack of sleep is something that we've studied and kind of known about for, a while, obviously. There's not only insomnia, but certain very rare conditions. There is a Guinness Book World Record holders for lack of sleep, or how many hours you can stay up without sleeping. There's side effects, and I kind of just want to talk about all of it. But I really want to focus on not only the side effects, but a good story that actually happened that I was told a long time ago through a YouTube video, which is actually what made me want to talk about this. I remembered the YouTube video. It's 5 years old now, so that's a long time. But the story has stuck with me until now, and I haven't forgot it, so I just kind of want to talk about sleep. But the first thing I want to talk about before I get into, the symptoms and the good stuff is why we need sleep. So, basic rundown bullet point list. It heals the body, gives us energy. Like when you're sick, when you sleep, you often feel better when you wake up. That's for a reason. It also helps manage and store memories within our brain. That's why you need sleep. If you don't, your brain can feel jumbled, mixed up, you lose focus, you forget what you're doing. It can feel like a constant headache, at least from what I've gone through. That's basically the bullet point list of why you need sleep. So it's not just like something our bodies do and we don't know why we need it. It has its uses. We're obviously, everything in the world pretty much sleeps. I don't know of an animal that doesn't sleep. That doesn't mean there isn't one. I just don't know of one. Of course, there's hibernation, which is we don't do that, but it's for bears and other sorts of animals. I think snakes hibernate as well. And that helps, store foods, save energy for winter. We sleep to store memories. We sleep to regain energy, to heal our bodies. So it's not just like, scientists don't know why sleep is helpful. We actually do know it helps us a lot. So there are 4 stages of sleep, and I'm getting this from a couple different sources. I'll probably have the sources actually linked into the description so that, there's that. I'm not just spouting stuff and you have to trust me. I am getting this from sources. So, stage 1 is stage N1. It's the lightest stage of sleep. It only lasts for a couple minutes. This is probably when you're drifting off into sleep. Then there's stage 2, where healthy adults, quoted from, which one's this one from? Quoted from sleepfoundation.org. There you go. Quote, healthy adults usually spend about half the night in N2 sleep, and there are bursts of activity that may help with memory retention, and learning, end quote. So that's a quote from most of this, the stages of sleep are found in the sleepfoundation.org source that I got. Then there's N3. It's also called slow wave sleep, and it helps a person, wake up, feel refreshed. The blood pressure in your body lowers, your heart rate and breathing slow, and the body secretes growth hormones. So that's another reason we sleep. It's because you grow when you sleep. And then the last stage of sleep is REM sleep. I think that's one that pretty much all of us are, relatively familiar with. What I didn't know, though, is that it accounts for only 20 to 25% of a typical night's sleep, with more of REM sleep occurring towards the morning than in, the evening. This is where I said memory storage, memory consolidation occurs in your REM sleep stage. You actually become temporarily paralyzed to prevent yourself from acting out what's happening while you're dreaming. And this is where, vivid dreaming takes place, and oftentimes your eyes will move rapidly during REM sleep. So that's kind of the base level of it. I just kind of wanted to set a basis. That's why sleep is important. So, with that being said, like knowing that it's memory consolidation and you're growing and you're healing yourself if you're sick, or in general, actually, what happens if you don't sleep? Different source. This one is from, I believe, verywellhealth.com. I know it's a .com, not a .org, but this gave me like a concise list with more hours in between. So, in the first 24 hours, so after 24 hours of not sleeping, there are, and I'm just listing symptoms that they have on the website. So slower reaction times, trouble paying attention, difficulty thinking and being logical, and short-term memory gaps. Now, I have pulled all-nighters. I think everyone has. And I didn't feel like this at all. Maybe slower reaction time, yes, I can get that. I have a slow reaction time as it is. If I don't sleep, I'm gonna get slower, right? But at times I almost felt not more energized, but like more awake, oddly enough, when I didn't sleep, when I pulled an all-nighter. Though there were times where if I was sitting down long enough or listening to someone talk for long enough, I would kind of get tired again. So let's just say that all these symptoms don't always happen, because depending on stages of life, depending on who you are as a person, you'll need different hours of sleep. So not all these symptoms, like if you stay up for 24 hours, maybe you get trouble paying attention or short-term memory gaps. I didn't have that, so it's just to say, like, these symptoms aren't set in stone. Anyway, then after 36 hours of no sleep, you get headaches, increased appetite, extreme fatigue and exhaustion, brief lapses in consciousness, or what they call microsleeps, momentary hallucinations, including seeing or hearing things that aren't there. So microsleeps, from what I understand it from reading through some articles, is where your brain just kind of temporarily, I don't want to say shuts off, but like that's the like base level, the way I can put it. Like okay, if you're on your phone and you just click it off for a second and then turn it back on, that's kind of what a microsleep is in like layman's terms, like really basic understanding of it. I'm sure there's 1,000 different scientific words that go in between what I just said, but basically your brain sleeps by itself even when you're functioning. And then you get momentary hallucinations, so that's seeing things, hearing things. So you get hallucinations and auditory hallucinations, visual and auditory hallucinations, sorry. And speaking of hallucinations, right? I just sidetrack real quick. When, like, driving, am I, like, the only person on planet Earth who sees, like, non-existent cats run across the street? I'm not sleep deprived, I swear, to my knowledge anyway, but, like, when driving at night, I will see, like, shadows of cats or dogs, like, I'm talking German Shepherd, like, height, run across the road, and I blink and it's not there, or I'll look away and look back and it's not there. It's like, and it's not only animals too. I'll see like people stand on the side of the street, or in the what is it called, like median, no, island, whatever. It separates like normal roads. There's grass on it. I'll see someone standing there, look away for a second, and they're not there because they didn't exist in the first place. I don't know what that is. I remembered because of hallucinations and stuff. I hope I'm not the only one that has to go through that. Anyway, moving on. After 48 hours of not sleeping, you might experience anxiety and irritability, muscle weakness, easy distraction, feeling out of body or that you're somehow unreal, which is called depersonalization, or feeling out of time or space, which is called temporal distortions, and visual and perceptual distortions such as walls bending or warping. So if you've ever seen those TikTok, Instagram videos where it's like that swirling spiral and you have to look at the center for like a minute and a half and then, the world kind of warps around you. I think that's kind of what the visual and perceptual distortions are like referring to. So that's after 48 hours of not sleeping. And again, not all these symptoms happen. After 72 hours of not sleeping, you can have profound and sometimes lifelike hallucinations, so you're hallucinating more. Your brain can't determine what's in front of it and what's not. False feelings that something is real. An increasing lack of coherence, so you're not all there. Obviously, your body at this point is like begging you to go to sleep, so you're not, nothing behind the eyes. And an inability to string together thoughts or disordered thinking. And not the normal kind of inability to string together thoughts when your brain just scatters for a moment. We're talking about like continuously forgetting or not knowing what you're doing, not able to talk correctly, not able to form a complete thought. So that's after 72 hours. And then after 96 hours, and I'm not giving any more bullet points for this, I tried to look for like more examples with more hours, because as we'll talk about later, there's people who stayed up for more than 96 hours, more than 100 hours. But I didn't see any bullet points, so this is as far as the bullet points go. So after 96 hours of sleep, the symptoms are talking incoherently, nonsense word repetition, erratic body movements, constant hallucinations or delusions, extreme paranoia, bursts of irritational or violent behaviors, a complete lack of feeling or response, catatonia, or possible seizures. So, that's a lot, and, seems dangerous, right? Well, there are people who have stayed up way longer than 96 hours, who have not died, and who have apparently come out of everything fine after just sleeping a longer period of time. So, and this is what I was talking about. So in the YouTube video I was watching, it went over one of these stories, and I'll try to recap as much as I remember from that YouTube video, but I want to give a name to the story. One story that I did not hear until researching this was that a young man in 1963 named Randy Gardner set a record by voluntarily staying awake for 264 hours. If you want to convert that into days, that's 11 days awake, so way past the 96 hour mark. So heaven only knows what his symptoms were, and that's without chemical stimulation. He recovered with, take this with a grain of salt, because I have no idea. I couldn't find like a report about this. Maybe I wasn't looking hard enough, or I don't know where to look to get something like this, but I couldn't find like an exact report, or even like Wikipedia didn't have anything on like the report or what he had gone through symptoms wise. So apparently he recovered with no apparent effects after a few days of slightly longer than normal sleep, and he broke the previous record held by a radio host, Tom Rounds. This is the one that I want to kind of recap. So, in the YouTube video I was watching, it mentioned a radio host. I don't even know if it gave him a name, but this radio host, Tom, I don't know if this is the right one, but I'm gonna refer to the radio host I'm talking about, that they were talking about in the YouTube video, as Tom. So we're just gonna name the radio host. All radio hosts are now named Tom. So this radio host Tom was doing a challenge. He was gonna stay up for as long as possible to, I think it was to break the Guinness World Records or to prove that you didn't need sleep. I think it was to prove you didn't need sleep. As side effects, about 3 days in, he started seeing bugs, I believe it was. Couple days later, we're talking rats. And by the end of his time, I don't remember exactly how many hours he did. I think it was 260, which was broken by 264.4. Anyway, so I think he did 260. And by the end of that, supposedly, from the YouTube video that I remember, he ran out of the radio station yelling and screaming incoherently about, I believe, the government or microchips, bugs, rats, something incoherent, stark naked. So I don't know what happened to him, but that is the story I was told from the YouTube video, so that's interesting. I might look into that later, but for now I'm just gonna talk about sleep. So hopefully Tom, or all Toms, are fine. But so I have contrasting statements here. So from one source, I have the Guinness Book of World Records stopped accepting applications for this record after the college student who did 264.4 hours. However, I have another source that says when Guinness World Records ceased accepting new attempts for safety reasons, at that point the record was held by Robert McDonald at 18 days and 21 hours, or 453 hours and 40 minutes, which again, take that with a grain of salt. That one's from Wikipedia. The other one says that the college student has the world record. So a little bit of contradicting statements, but I don't think Guinness, essentially, whoever holds the title, they don't do that anymore because it's unsafe. So with the college students, since I kind of gave an 11-day update, according to a source, on the 11th day when the college student was staying up, he was asked to subtract 7 repeatedly. Quote, starting with 100, he stopped at 65. When asked why he had stopped, he replied that he had forgotten what he was doing, end quote. I pull a lot more quotes. I'm just, like, all the symptoms are direct quotes. I pull a lot more quotes. When I say quote and unquote, I kind of just want to emphasize something. So, yeah, that was what happened with them. So I kind of want to just talk about this YouTube video. The YouTube video is, let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Okay, that was the YouTube video, or the YouTube video title. And in this YouTube video, I'm going to recap because I don't want to show it. In the YouTube video, what stuck with me the most was what was called, and I actually looked this up, not very thoroughly, but I did look it up, was called the nightmare death. And there was a story told about the nightmare death in that video, but I want to talk about the nightmare death. It was an actual thing, an actual phenomenon that happened between 1970 and 1980s, where over 100 young, healthy Southeast Asian refugees died in their sleep, screaming. This is medically referred to as sudden, unexpected nocturnal death syndrome. There's another one for it, I cannot pronounce it. The condition was frequently linked to severe sleep paralysis and nightmares, and this is what supposedly inspired the movie Nightmare on Elm Street. So, 5 years ago, I was watching this YouTube video. It was probably at night, and they began talking about the nightmare death. They said it was, primarily men in their 30s. They were young, they were healthy. And then they told a story about a kid. A kid who constantly complained about nightmares, a kid who constantly told his parents about nightmares, and his parents didn't believe him because it's a kid. I think at the time he was talking about a man standing in his room. And so one night the kid was terrified to fall asleep, so he was watching a movie with his parents. And again, this might not be the story straight up because my memory is a little different than 5 years ago, but from what I remember, the kid was terrified to fall asleep, so he was watching a movie with his parents. He fell asleep on the couch. Parents picked him up, brought him to his room, and while the kid was sleeping, the parents then went to bed. They woke up to their kid violently screaming, and when they checked him, he had died. Again, apparently, according to the YouTube video, there were multiple people some people who had somewhat survived. I don't know if it was the nightmare death or they were talking about sleep paralysis, but they were talking about how this mass would just lay on their stomach and slowly, or like stomach, I don't know if it was stomach or legs, and slowly crawl up to them, and it felt like they couldn't breathe, and it felt like they were gonna die. And that was what I listened to 5 years ago. So that story about that kid has stuck with me. Details perfect or not, it has stuck with me over the years, and it really interested me. It's not a bad video. I am probably gonna rewatch the video after this because I want to hear that story again. I think, honestly, if you want like a brief rundown of both the radio host story, the nightmare death story, and a couple others, that video is just a good one to watch, though there are plenty of others on YouTube that will explain not only nightmare death, but what happens if you don't sleep. Probably a lot more, like comas are, I should have probably added this because it's very interesting, and I'm just going to paraphrase what I know here. But comas and sleep are different because sleep you react to outside stimuli, whereas in a coma you don't. I believe that was the difference. And there are a bunch of other differences that are really, really interesting as well, and I might talk about comas more in depth at a different time. But for now, I just wanted to talk about sleep and lack thereof, because not only was it like an important, or not important, it was like a really cool thing when I was younger to stay up 24 hours, but that story has always stayed with me, and of course now I pull all-nighters and, I don't get sleep, so but yeah, that story always interested me, and I probably will talk about more like stories in general that have stuck with me over the years, because I used to be really into, I still am really into different mythologies, and when you get into the, like, I won't say deep parts of mythology, but like even the surface level mythology, and what's on YouTube, there are some really interesting stories, and the nightmare death being one of them. If like you find any of this like interesting, I hope it's the nightmare death, because that one was, not only is that real and a phenomenon that actually happened, but it's a really interesting story and it links to everything nicely. So yeah, I think that's all for today. That's all I had bullet pointed today. That's all I wanted to talk about. So, without further without further words, thank you for sitting down, thank you for watching, and thank you for hopefully learning and enjoying with me, because I definitely did learn about a couple of things researching this, and I hope you get some good sleep and don't stay up too late. Bye.